Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have a special presentation coming your way called Releasing the Gifts. And here at Revealing Truth Ministries, if you know, maybe some of you do, maybe you don't, we created a creative hub called the Creative Collective. And there's so much more details to come your way on that. But today, what we're doing that's so special is that we have our very own Pastor Brian was able to sit down with one of our prime creatives, Miss Randy Norman, and just to talk about her creative journey and also her book that she wrote, Spirit Spoken. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
Mrs. Randy Norman.
Hey, that's the bride.
So I'm so excited to be here today. Many of you guys should be excited to even be here today with us, listening to see what God is about to do in this moment. But something incredible happened most recently.
Mm-hmm.
You you wrote a book, a whole book, right? And I believe that in this season, God's doing so many incredible things with his people.
Yeah.
I believe that God's always doing something incredible with his people.
Yeah.
But I believe in this season, we are finding new strength in how to embrace those things and realizing that if I'm going to live for somebody, it's going to be God.
Yes, sir.
Right. And so I think that this moment and many other moments to come would just be a display of what God can do when a person just embraces that faith, that courage that God placed inside of them
Mm-hmm.
to just go for it.
Yeah.
But you went for it,
Yes,
right?
sir.
You went for it, and we have the pleasure. I have the pleasure in this moment of talking about what it was like when you went for it.
Yeah.
Talk to you about like what Spirit Spoken is,
Yeah.
and I just want to have a good time. You want to have a good time?
I want to have a good time.
Want to have a good time?
Yes, sir.
And so I'm gonna start here, right? I want to start off here because I believe the challenge a lot of people have when God says something to them or God is bringing something out of them that is unfamiliar is they immediately have challenges with knowing or connecting with whether or not they can do it
Yeah.
or whether or not they can accomplish what it is that God placed in their heart.
Yeah.
So I want to start with this question, just a baseline question. Were you born creative?
Pastor Bird, that's a loaded question. It's it's loaded. It's loaded because initially I would venture to say, yeah, knowing what I know. But the question is that did I always operate creatively? Did I always walk in that creativity? Did I always see that step to the forefront? And the answer would absolutely be no. I was petrified most of the time. And I thank God, I say this all the time, I had amazing people in my life who used to kick me and push me to do the things that I didn't see in myself to be able to do. And it's amazing what other people can see about you sometimes that you can't see about you.
Yeah.
And and I remember, so you remember we used to have this course here, Identity and Destiny, when we had that. And I remember sitting on the back row and I'm sitting back there and all of a sudden, Holy Spirit started talking. And Gary teases me because when like I start shifting and moving in my chair, right? So I'm shifting and I'm moving in my chair, and he tapping me on my leg. And I'm like, oh God, oh God. And it was in that moment that Holy Spirit said to me that there will come a time that you're going to have to do and be who I called you to be without anybody pushing you to do that.
Yeah.
Because all those years, while he had already deposited and put on the inside of me who I was, I mean, he made me who I am, right?
Yeah.
But there was always people who would kick me and push me. No, you're gonna do that. No, you're gonna go there. No, you're gonna step up. No, you're gonna do this. And the whole time I got my what I call reflexive no. No, I ain't. I don't want to do that. I don't do that. And so again, yeah, I was probably born creative, but did I always think I was? No.
So you would say like, you know, creativity is almost, a title of some way that you have to accept along your journey of realizing, no, I actually am a little bit different, right? And
Right.
so creativity or being creative is just a soft, or I should say, an acceptable title of me embracing a little bit of my I'm not normal.
Correct. Correct. Because that means you think differently. You may see things a different way. You may articulate things a different way. You may wear something differently. It's designed to wear with both straps up, but you just got to put one strap down.
Yeah. So,
You know, like
so if someone's listening to it and they're like, hey, you know what? I'm not normal.
Right.
Right. You know,
Yeah.
guess what?
Yeah, newsflash.
Newsflash.
Yeah, most of us not normal.
We not
not normal. Yeah.
That's okay. Just
Right.
label yourself creative.
That's it. That's it.
And move forward creatively.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
Another question, right? Can a person fail at being creative?
No, because I heard someone say once that you fail forward, right? And so, and then I think it was what's his name that plays the trumpet that comes Phil Driscoll. He was like, I don't play a wrong note, you know. He said, I don't play a wrong note, right? That and what he was saying that it just takes me to a new place.
Oh, that's dope.
You know, and so it's taking those things, especially if you are stepping out and you're moving creatively in the things that you believe God has shown you to do, right? There is no misstep. There is just, you know, a new path or something new that you've learned about and you've discovered along that journey about who he is, about who you are, you know, and you're able to move forward and kind of get a little bit comfortable being uncomfortable as you move through, you know, and so no, there's no failure in it. It's only moving forward. It's only more discovery.
Yeah.
It's only more discovery.
Yeah. And I truly believe that, right? I believe that you can't fail at being creative. I think if anything, what people are trying to express by even thinking that they may have failed at being creative is I didn't explain it the way I really wanted to. Right. It's you know, sometimes, you know, we try to find our way through expressing what we're feeling. And I can say, I think it's very difficult, next to impossible, to fail at being creative. You may just don't like the way you explain what you did.
Right.
But that's the part where you can develop. And I tell some people sometimes, like, you know what, if you just listen to what people say about what you did, you can even learn better how to explain what you did. But stand behind what you did. It was you. You know, and don't ever see it as a pass or a failure. There's no pass or failing when you're expressing you.
And that's the thing, that it is an expression of you, which sometimes it's a vulnerability.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a I call it you get naked and exposed a lot of times when you put your creativity and expression of who you are out on the table, because then you're putting it before people who naturally are going to judge it. Some people will like it, some people won't. It'll be for some, it won't be for others. But you are putting who you are on the table, and that is vulnerable.
The vulnerable, which, you know, I believe in, right? I believe vulnerability is one of the gateways to greatness.
Yes.
You know, we talk about the children of Israel, but always think about what would it have been like to actually been like walking across the sea, like the dried up sea. I can only imagine the comment section, right? It's almost probably like comments now, right? There's probably some people like, wow, it's so awesome. Look how God told him to get back. There's probably was some people like, how long do you think it's gonna stay up? There probably was some people like, you know, we could drown. Like the same pathway that we're using to get the freedom is actually the same thing that can actually destroy us.
As easy as the water went back,
the water can come back, right? And so I say, you know what? In that moment, what I believe they would have been feeling is vulnerable, right? But it was the path. And I tell people all the time, like, vulnerability is a gateway to greatness. Being exposed, being out there for the comment section, right? It's almost like if God had a comment section at that moment, I imagine he would have been shaking his head like, no, brother, just keep walking. Just keep walking. Just keep right on walking. It's gonna be okay. And that's why I say, like, don't see it's not a pass or a fail with creativity, right? I think we just learn
it's the journey.
Learn how to express it better. Knowing how to describe it better. So with that being said, let's talk about this book.
Oh my.
Describe to me a little bit what it has done for you and what it has done for your family.
So it's been amazing actually putting down on paper all that God has shared through this journey, right? Spirit spoken, a spoken word journey of faith. Um, and for me, it is so most people who know me know that I have ventured, like, there's lots of different things that my hands touch,
Mm.
right? And so whether it's singing or whether it's spoken word or it's been drama or, like, there's a number of things, I was in a band, like there's a number of things that my hands have touched. And throughout all of those things, there has been a journey that God has had me on. And this particular journey that he's had me on with spoken word has been such a intimate and different
Mm.
journey. And so for me, the process of writing this book has been about unveiling that, but it's also been about being comfortable allowing God to speak something through me.
Mm.
And even in stepping out and doing that, what I have seen with my daughter is her comfort level rise and her desire rise to step out and to do the things that God has placed in her
Yeah.
heart to do. So being an example, of
Yeah.
what that looks like, to her, which is huge,
Yeah.
because it's never about, and for us, it's never about telling her or telling Trey to do a thing. It is about us being a demonstration of that thing so they can look at it and say, oh, not I want to do that, but oh, I can do what God told me to do too.
Yeah, and I think that's so big, right? One of the principles that my father taught me,
Mm-hmm.
wrote one of his greatest books, Success Habits.
Mm-hmm.
It starts off by saying that, the first step to anyone being successful,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a loaded word too. We'll
Right.
dive in that. But the first step to anyone being successful is realizing that their success isn't only about them.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, since we know creativity and the things we do creative wise
Mm-hmm.
is an expression of ourself,
Mm-hmm.
we don't always immediately see how that expression
Mm-hmm.
leads to someone else making their personal expression.
Yeah.
And that's what I love to hear, is about how you saw or and are seeing this be something that your daughter in your own house, like before we start talking about how people outside of my house will
Yeah.
see this, man, what would this mean for people who live inside of my house? Of course,
Yeah.
you're talking about your daughter,
Yeah.
who you have a responsibility in raising the right way. But
Yeah.
if she is and I know this about you, although we know it's going to go further, if she is the only one that's inspired by this,
Yeah.
it was enough.
It's enough. Yeah.
And what she is able to get out of seeing you embrace this,
Mm-hmm.
it's enough.
Yeah.
And I believe sometimes, our although we know our circles of influences
Mm-hmm.
are big and huge,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we have to bring it back home
Yeah.
so that we make that first step
Yeah.
and say, you know what would this mean to me? But greater, what would this mean to, like, my daughter? What would this mean to
Yeah.
my son? Like,
Yeah.
what would this mean to my brother, my sister?
Mm-hmm.
And think about, with them, sometimes it just would show them that they could do something different as well.
Yeah.
And regardless of the quality of it,
Yeah.
the fact that you made the step
Yeah.
means a lot to those around us.
Yeah.
Now, those outside of our immediate sphere will look at the quality.
Yeah.
How many did you sell?
Right. Right.
Like all types of stuff, right?
Right.
But the people inside of our circles would be like,
You did it.
you did it.
You did, like, and take it to a step where, again, whatever that thing is that, man, I wanted to do this t-shirt business, which, I got a cousin who's doing that, but it's just like, whatever that thing is, I can do that. I can do that.
Yeah.
Okay. You did that. I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And oftentimes I have to, so much of what I do gets put on display routinely
Yes, it does.
that I have to routinely remind myself
Yeah.
that the opinions of those around me actually do matter the most.
Yeah.
And as much as it may become a routine, I have to train myself to value how Rashida thinks about the message I taught,
Yeah.
and never let her opinion to become less because
Yeah.
it's accessible.
Yeah.
And that's just an easy way for me to always remind myself to be like, keep pushing, right?
Yeah.
If it means something to Rashida. Like if Rashida got
Yeah.
something out of the message,
That was
if
enough.
the only life that moved forward was hers,
Yep. It was enough.
that was enough.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so
And that's huge because, too, one of the things that Gary always says, he's like, everybody's watching for a different reason.
yeah.
Everybody's watching for a different reason. And so for us to always be mindful about not getting all caught up, too, sometimes in what all the reasons are
Yeah.
that people are watching. And,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, it's, did I do what I believe God told me to do? And is he well pleased in what that thing is? And then do the people that are around me, the people who are closest to me, the people who I hold dear to me, did they receive something from that?
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't let the wolves have it.
Can't have it.
Can't have it. The wolves can't have it. What do you believe this book will do for others?
So my desire, my prayer has been since the moment I began to type that while people will read my journey, that through the journey, that the Holy Spirit will be speaking to them about their own journey. And so it will either plant a seed into their hearts about that which God has spoken to them about doing, and that it's time to move, or it'll water something that's already been planted. It will illuminate something in them, and they would also see that I'm. It's just Randy.
Mhm.
It's just Randy. I laugh with her. I kick it with her. I see her. And I serve with her. And God, if God is doing that and speaking through her in that way, he can speak through me in this way too. And that's been my desire from the beginning, since I began to type. God, allow this work not just to be about somebody reading about my journey, but that through the words you will begin to speak to them through those pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they will have their own journey that they're walking out. And on the flip side of that, one of the things I think in the beginning of the book, when I have some acknowledgments in there, and the reason that I have those acknowledgments in there is because the people that we come in contact through our journey is so important. I thank God for the yes of all the people that I have come in contact with through this journey. I talk about how I never considered myself a writer,
Yeah.
ever considered myself a writer. And yet God saw fit to put me in contact with a Dr. Vanetta,
Mm.
right? When he first told me that I was going to write something. And I was like, huh, say what? But because of here, and one of the things I say all the time is everything for the house is in the house.
Mhm.
Dr. Vanetta was here. Over the communications team, we had a magazine at the time,
Yeah.
and all I know is I ran into her in the break room one day, actually in the mail room one day, and Holy Spirit told me to tell her that I'm supposed to write something.
Yeah.
And because she was walking in where God had her to be, she was in the position to say, okay, let's talk about that. What? And so she began to nurture that. Meeting up with Miss Ireland was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me,
Yeah.
because she taught me to hear from God. She taught me the importance of trusting his voice and to move with that. And so through this and through people reading it, I hope too that they are able to see how important it is for you to be and to do what God has told you
Yeah.
to be in position, to be, as me and Wood say all the time, you got to be at your address.
Yeah, I love that.
You got to be there.
Yeah.
Be there, because there is somebody on the other end of that that's counting on it. And you may not even see for years why they were connected, why they were put there, why they were put in that position. You may never see that, or you may not see it for years. But it was important for you to be in position, for you to be doing what God called you to do, and for you to be fully show up and be who God has called you to be, because there's something about that these people that he's connected you to need in order to push out and to give birth to all that's been put on the inside of them.
Which you're saying something that's major, right? I know many people would say this, right? They would say life is a team sport.
Yeah.
They would say, things move at the speed of relationships.
Hmm.
But I think that one area where people have a little kink in the system is they don't believe that creativity happens through a team.
Yeah.
But what you're expressing to me, and we've been kind of talking, there's a team of people
Yeah.
that have been a part of you embracing your creativity,
Yeah.
embracing the voice of God that's living on the inside
Yeah.
of you. And I think sometimes we try to do it alone.
Hmm.
And I tell people all the time, man, you do. Like, I would be limiting myself if I saw everyone around me through one filter.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, I have to allow just as much as I change, I have to allow the people around me to change.
That's right.
And so it's like in this season, where Dr. Vanetta probably passed you 100 times, right?
Uh-huh.
But it was like now you have this thing inside of you about a writer, right? And now
Yeah.
you see the lens of the editor, the
Yeah.
book writer, she's there. Here's the awesome thing about it is she didn't stay there,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like she didn't stay there, don't keep her there.
Yeah.
And how we can continue. I see some people all the time. You said this too, like everything for the house is in the house, right?
Yeah.
I see people all the time think that because God's starting them on a new journey, they need a new surrounding.
Right.
When I'm like, if God's able to grow you where you are, don't you think
Yeah.
he's growing other people around you?
Come on.
Just get yourself a new filter. Like
Yeah.
that person you thought could only like sing, as
Yeah.
it turns out, they can dance, right?
Right.
They just don't, they don't choreograph. They just want to follow your dance moves, right?
Right,
So it's like
right.
you got the moves, I got the copy, right? And
Yeah.
allowing the relationships around us to be a part of our journey. I hear you opening yourself up when people know these things, but I
Yeah.
always see people when it comes to creativity,
Hmm.
I see them getting a bubble.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, don't ever put your creativity in a bubble.
Yeah.
Like, talk about it. Let it out.
Yeah.
Like if you cook a good meal, like
Yeah.
you're gonna talk about it, right?
Creatives can be sensitive about that stuff.
They're very, very sensitive. Very, very sensitive.
Yeah.
But there's so many incredible ways that God goes about making sure that what we have has all the nutrients it needs
Yeah.
to thrive.
Yeah.
And he does it through relationships, right? You don't have to
Absolutely.
learn how to, shoot the video, edit the video, do the audio for the video,
Yeah.
and write the video, and be all the actors for the video
Yeah.
to do the video idea you have.
Yeah. And it's almost like you have to even stop trying to figure out why God is trying to send you someplace.
Yeah.
Right? Because so one of the things, shout out divine purpose. One of the things, God sent me the divine purpose. Now, yeah, I like to dance,
Yeah.
and in my heart, I'm a tap dancer. Now, just so y'all know, in my heart, I'm a tap dancer. That's my move. Right there,
Yeah.
when they do that right there. That's it. Now, He sent me the divine purpose as a part of this process in this journey. And I was like, I know I like to dance, God, but I don't do that.
Yeah.
Right? Sent me over there, but it was because He was actually sending me to Rashonda.
Yeah.
Because there was something that was in her and she put into their orientation program for Shift that was important for me to get out in order to be able to move through where God was taking me.
Yeah.
I needed to learn how to be fully present and to be comfortable in all of me and to be fully present, be able to express myself using all of my body.
Yeah.
Right, I need to be able to do that, and you guys, even doing spoken word, all of that, like I'm very expressive, but I was not always that way. He sent me there as a part of my journey. I never danced once in praise and worship. Why? Because literally the week we finished Shift, it was auditions for the praise team. It was like, you got what I needed you to get there. Now go on over there. Like you done.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, had I not done that, I wouldn't have been prepared for the next part of my journey. Right. And so for me, it's even don't question where He's sending you, even though if
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense, because it's the relationship, it's the connection, it's not staying in the bubble. And in order to do that, some of the turns on this path may not look like they belong there.
Yeah.
But they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. So we got a little bit about you.
Yeah.
We got a little bit about what led to this.
Yeah.
We've got a little bit about how it has increased and just helped you connect with the people around you. But let's talk about the book
Oh
now.
boy. Okay.
What do you hear when you hear Spirit Spoken, a spoken word journey of faith? What do you hear?
I hear that as long as I allow the Holy Spirit to speak, He will guide my journey of faith.
Mhm.
As long as I allow Him to be the loudest voice in the room, the loudest voice in my head, that He will continue to direct this journey of faith. One of my favorite passages of scriptures is for me to allow the word to be a lamp unto my feet.
Mhm.
And for me, this speaks, the title of that speaks even to that, in that I don't always need to know what all is going to happen all the way out there. I don't need to
Mhm.
know what all, while He may show you something long term, He may not.
Mhm.
And that's okay. As long as I'm trusting Him and I'm trusting the Holy Spirit that's within me to guide me through this journey,
Mhm.
one step at a time, I'm going to get where I'm supposed to go.
Yeah. And, a little bit off script, right?
Yeah.
So faith has been such a big thing to me.
Yeah.
And I can't help but notice that you said a spoken word journey of faith. And what I hear when you say a spoken word journey of faith, I hear, man, I know a lot of people may have read different books about how to grow in faith.
Mm-hmm.
I know people have read a lot of books about, the steps of faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you said a journey of
Mm-hmm.
faith. You said a spoken word journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe what we have majored in is
Mm-hmm.
the steps and the principles,
Mm-hmm.
but we haven't opened ourselves up to the way it looks to walk it out.
Yeah.
And as I read this, I realized that, man, God takes what we see as faith
Mm-hmm.
and which is trust in Him,
That's it.
and then looks at who we are and creates a journey for us to walk it out.
Mm-hmm.
And this book, I'm gonna start this one, right? I'm gonna talk
Mm-hmm.
about one of these in here that really just gripped my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Was you wrote a poem called Mannequin.
Mm-hmm.
And before you wrote it,
Mm-hmm.
you have a section that's called Behind It,
Mm-hmm.
right? So talk to me a little bit about what the behind section means to the poem.
So the behind section is, how oftentimes, you get behind the music,
Yeah.
and all that, and so you kind of get an understanding of what was happening that led to that. And so it's the behind the scenes that led to actually giving birth to the pieces. And so with mannequins, I always had this, that hole in the back in the booth in the corner of the dog. I'm not interested in being up front. I don't want to do none of that. I don't want a microphone. I don't want to lead nothing. I don't want to be on platform. Don't ask me to talk to nobody. I'm good with I serve the food on the line. You do our pop check, give me the background, give me I fall back. Let me do all of that, and I want to be in the background. Right. And and that particular poem actually began to speak to just that whole thing. And it's like, no, the truth of the matter is that you wanting to be in the background is good. Like, you don't need to necessarily change that. It's in the background in relation to who?
Mm-hmm.
In relation to who? In relation to me. In relation to Christ. It's being and getting in the position to be able to wear Him.
Mm-hmm.
To wear Him, to be able to say what He wants me to say. And the very characteristic of not really being interested in the shine,
Yeah.
not really being interested in the limelight, was the thing that He wanted to use.
And I love that, right? So I love the behind part because I believe that this book does more than just give people, great poems. But I believe it shows them how you take an assignment God has given you, and God can take that assignment to build your faith with it. And I think that one of the most confused places a lot of people are is trying to figure out how to live out their faith.
Yeah.
Like, how do I live it out? I know what it is and what it should be. The Bible tells me what my faith should be and what it should sound like.
Yeah.
But then when it's time for me to plug that into what I actually am doing and
Yeah.
believe that I'm called to do, I get misfires.
Yeah.
And this book goes through the details of thoughts that you think,
Mm-hmm.
but then embracing the assignment that God is giving you,
Yeah.
and how when you put these two together, faith is less of an assignment and more of a journey
Yeah.
of you going from the back,
Mhm.
the booth, in the corner, in the dark,
Yeah.
to out front. And the mannequin spoke so much to me because I have this saying, right? I have this
Mhm.
saying that oftentimes fear most often comes disguised as comfort.
Mm-hmm.
And people won't say they're afraid of something. They'll just say, I'm comfortable with where I am.
Yep.
And trust me, everybody is comfortable where they are. That's why
Yeah.
you're there.
Right.
Right? So I'm here. I put on this shirt because it's comfortable to me. I put on these shoes because they're comfortable to me. Right?
Yeah.
So people naturally are going to do what's comfortable.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about walking on a journey of faith, what we have to realize is we got to put down our comfort,
Yeah.
right? And be honest with ourselves,
Yeah.
right? The honest part of it is really I'm saying I'm comfortable because I fear being uncomfortable.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But guess what?
Yeah. You're gonna have to be a little uncomfortable.
You got to be a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And really, that's not discomfort speaking. That's fear speaking.
Yeah.
And I love it when you call the spade the spade.
Yeah.
People don't like it no more, right? They jump from the back to the front.
Uh-huh.
But in Mannequin, you talk about how to go from the back to the front in the way I know God would approve of, right? You have a quote. I'm going to read it here. And it says, comfortable, that one word can create a pot of gumbo filled with footsteps in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about that.
If you stay in a place of comfort, like you're gonna make decisions based on how you feel, not based on what God has said, not based on even following the instructions or the assignments of the people that He's placed in your life to help to guide you, the leaders that He's given you. Like you're gonna push back against that every time, which means that you're not going to be in the process of becoming who God has called you to be. And so as long as you are stunting that growth, or you're not in the process of becoming, you're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to figure out, and one day you sit back and you look, how did I get here?
Yeah.
How did I get here? And it's just simply because we allowed comfort to keep us where we were instead of moving forward in the correct direction, trusting who God has placed in our lives to help us and to grow us and to stretch us and to give us those assignments that we like, I don't know about that. Well, they see something in you. God has said something to them about who you are, but you got to trust that.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to get out of that place of comfort so that you move in the right direction.
Yeah.
And is it scary? Yeah. Because the unknown, it's just that. It's the unknown, and it doesn't feel good in your body, You like, what in the world? Look, this don't feel good in my body.
Yeah. And that's why I love Mannequin, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like everyone can visually see a mannequin.
Mm-hmm.
And Mannequin to me connects so many ways about how God has used my life.
Yeah.
And when you see a mannequin, you see one on display,
Mm-hmm.
you know that this mannequin has not almost zero input
Right.
to the clothes it wears.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
What it's wearing is, depends on what the owner or the designer of the shop decided, they wanted to put on it.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing, right? That's so much of what it feels like to be used by God, right? We say the word vessel. We're familiar with the word vessel.
We say it.
Say was right, right? We're familiar with the word vessel, right? But I would say a strong competitor for the word vessel is mannequin, right? Because God has often put things on me that other people see it before I realize I get a mirror, right? Before I get a mirror to see what I got on, like God done dressed me with something, right?
Right.
And what I've been dressed with, like people like, That's awesome.
Right.
That's great. So people are calling me things
Yeah.
that make me feel uncomfortable because
Yeah.
I haven't even seen the
Mm-mm.
outfit, right?
Mhm.
I don't know that I'm
Mhm.
well, I'm trying to keep it clean. I don't know that I'm a bad mamma jammer yet,
Uh-huh.
right? Because
Uh-huh.
I ain't got a chance to look in the mirror. But you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
God done dressed me with something,
Right,
right?
right.
And I didn't see what he put on me.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of people haven't seen what God's put on them yet, right?
Mhm.
But it takes that team around you
Yeah.
that says, like, bro, do you know how clean you are right now?
Right,
Like,
right.
and it's uncomfortable. Honestly, it's uncomfortable because I didn't put it on me.
Right. I
It's
didn't choose that.
I didn't choose it. The mannequin doesn't get to choose the outfit, right?
Right.
So I can't even take responsibility from a cleanness.
Right.
But if I'm clean, I'm clean.
You clean.
You
Now-
clean, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm not prideful because I don't get to pick what I wear.
Right.
And this reminded me so much, right, of Joseph, right? Because he had a coat of many colors, right?
Yeah.
That was put on him.
Yeah.
Like he didn't go down to Ross and say, I think this, I like this. It got
Yeah.
nice colors, right?
Right.
No. It was put on him.
Yeah.
And I like to say it like this: God loves to dress us.
Yeah.
Like God loves to dress us.
Yeah.
And he dresses us for every season we are in life. And sometimes when seasons shift, you need to go ask people like, man, what I'm looking like right now,
Yeah.
right? You know, they most often can pick up on it faster than
Yeah.
you can. And in Mannequin, it just speaks to me so much because behind it, you talk about how people were like, girl, you got it.
Right.
Right. And you like, I don't even know when I got it. Oh, I don't know when I got it.
I don't know when I got it.
Like, I didn't go to a training session. Like, when I got it, I got it.
And sometimes, what is it?
Oh. First of all, how long I got
How
it,
long-
right? You know what I'm
right.
saying? Is this like Cinderella? I gotta return this before
Right.
midnight. Like, God, I'm looking good now. How long I'm gonna look good?
Right.
And I think sometimes that's us trying to control,
Yeah.
but the mannequin doesn't have control.
Don't have control of what gets put on, when it gets put on, or when it gets taken off.
And how many people it attracts and doesn't attract.
Yeah.
All I know is if it's on me,
I'm wearing it.
I'm wearing it.
Yeah.
And I believe it protects from pride too.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps me humble to know that God's my dresser.
Yeah.
Right? And he's
Yeah.
clothed me with so many different gifts. He can just think about it. Like if God had like a dresser, right?
Yeah.
A dresser. Let's say if God has a dresser in heaven, right? And they got clothes in it, right?
Uh-huh.
And each piece of clothing represents a different gift he can put on you in the season.
Oh my.
Like there could be he has an infinite supply.
Yeah.
But when you wake up in the morning, God will dress you
Yeah.
with what's needed,
Yeah.
supply you for
Yeah.
what's needed. And when I read Mannequin, it just reminds me of myself.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I wake up, I don't even know what God put on me that morning until I run into somebody and their lives are touched by something that I'm like, whoa, I didn't even know I had it on.
Right.
I don't know
that was
how
me
long
today.
I gonna have it on either, so I need to go ahead and just use it.
Right.
For as long as it's here. I'm
Right.
like, might have a different outfit on tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's so awesome.
It's the yielding in the moment.
Yeah.
Just yield in the moment, and just let it be, which is, again, it can be a scary thing, but you just gotta, all right, let's go. This is what we
Look,
wearing today.
It ain't on me.
Yeah, it ain't on
is
me.
on me, and it's also, man, it speaks so much to me, right? So when I think about vessels, think about Mannequin, I think sometimes sometimes God fills us, if we're talking about a vessel, sometimes God fills us with water.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he fills us with Pepsi,
Mhm.
right? So, that means that if I'm filled with water, I just brought somebody some nourishment, they may not be excited about the water, right?
Yeah,
But then
yeah.
sometimes God fills you with Pepsi and they're
Yeah.
like, ooh, that had a nice little pop to it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's also part of how we are to stand and react to how people respond to our gift, right?
Mhm.
I didn't fill myself, right? And so I don't necessarily get to decide how people react to what God
Right.
decided to fill me with.
Right.
Sometimes God fills you with things that make people smile. Sometimes God fills you with things that make people just be nourished.
Yeah.
So I don't get caught up in the reactions. I
Yeah.
just keep my eyes focused on who's filling me.
Yeah.
But let's go. All right.
Yeah.
So I can be there forever. Another
Uh-huh.
one. Believe larger.
Oh my Lord. Mm-hmm.
Believe larger. Now, this spoke so much to me
Yeah.
because behind the poem,
Mm-hmm.
and then in the poem, like you talk about something that we all hear, right? God talks about what we are to do with our thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and how we are to live our lives without thinking about the things we need.
Yeah.
And God even talks about the clothes, the food we eat.
Yeah.
And the thing is, that's such a difficult thing for us to do because naturally you think about what you're going to wear every day. You think
Right.
about what you're going to drink every day.
Yeah.
But I believe God is speaking these things to us because he wants to create space.
Yeah.
He wants us to create space every day
Mm-hmm.
to believe larger.
Yeah.
When you start to tap into that in that poem, I'm read a line.
Mm-hmm.
You said, when you come to yourself
Yeah.
and recognize who you are, your thoughts start to line up and you can begin to see far.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about it.
So Believe Larger was an assignment that was given to me for New Year's Eve. And that particular thing was that was difficult for me. Like the segment that year, it was 3 different areas that we were going to be tackling going into the new year, and 2 of them I was like, oh yeah, I'm good with that. I can associate higher, I'm a circle, I got people out that know more than me, that, smarter than me, that, like I'm good with that, I could do all these things, but the assignment I was given was to do a spoken word piece about Believe Larger. I was like, oh, hold on. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Because I always had a hard time dreaming. Now I thought, and this is where God kind of shook me up and gave me some clarity, because I thought that I was dreaming, right? And the thing about it was, I write about how, I decided I wanted to go to college, and I wanted to do all these things, but really what I discovered was that what I had was a formula. I had a if this, then why. So if I go to college, then I'll get a good job. If I get a good job, then I'll be able to pay all my bills. If I'm able to pay my bills, my lights will never be off. Like, it was just like one thing, because I was worried about my everyday stuff. I grew up and things weren't always rosy, and I just was like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Right. What I'm not doing is that. So I'm always have enough to be able to keep the lights on, because I'm not interested in being in the dark. Been there, done that. Don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm always have some food in the refrigerator, because I remember when I didn't. So been there, done that. Not interested in doing that. So I'm gonna do all these things to lead me to a place where I never have to worry about what I'm going to eat. I'll never have to worry about my electricity being on. I'll never have to worry about my mode of transportation. So I was doing all these things, and I called it dreaming.
Yeah.
I called it that. But that's really not what that was. That was putting myself back in a box. It was putting myself in a box, thinking that if I do these things, then I'll get these things. But what I soon came to realize in my adult life is that, okay, so you got a job, but then you can get laid off from that job. And you can get laid off from that job and then not be able to necessarily pay your bills because you don't have enough income coming in, because you're trusting on this job to be your source. So you're trusting on this formula to work. Yeah. And this formula does not work. And it was in going through these things that it was like, oh, okay. And so then as I'm sitting there and I'm getting ready to, I'm like, God, what you want to say in this? Because clearly I don't know what to say, what you want to say. And it was in this process that he began to give me the words, and then he began to give me pictures to go along with the words. Because we all know, and we hear it all the time, and we say, when God says something, you should see something. Yeah. Right? But I never walked that out because I was scared. I was scared to dream. Yeah. So I never really saw anything. I didn't get a mental picture of anything that God was saying. I was just moving, right? Yeah. And he was taking care of me, and it served me well. It was a protection. Some things, it served me well as I was walking this thing out. But it was time for me to go to another level. It was time for me to expand my relationship with him. Yeah. And so he began to show me images. As he's giving me words, he was showing me images. And he was like, and the piece needed to be humorous, but the piece needed to have all these images to go with it. And I'm like, God, okay. All right, here we go. This is something there. I was like, Gary, what is this? I don't even know what this is. And, Gary's response is always, God said it, do it. Yeah. That's always his response. God said, he'll let me be like, I don't know what this is. God said it, do it. Yeah. And that's kind of how that piece, came to be, and why there are pictures in it associated with it, because when God says something, we should see something to begin to dream and get an image to what God has said to us about who we are or what that promise looks like or where we're going, where we're headed. Like you should see something.
Yeah, and that's so awesome to me because that is what you pick up, right? So as you're reading the Believe Larger poem, and like I said, I fell in love with all the behind the poem, right? Because it gives so much direction towards making that connection. But what you can actually pick up and see is what does that journey look like?
Mhm.
And like you said, God had to like transition, right? And so it's like, because really many people have, right? Unless I don't know, unless you're some type of miracle baby, right? At some point, you pre-programmed
Yeah.
a route to live a good life,
Whatever
right?
good looks like
Whatever
to
good
you.
looks like to you, you
Mhm.
got one pre-programmed,
Yeah.
right? And when God says believe larger, I think sometimes we increase the pre-program, right?
That's
So
Mhm.
we say, all right, believe larger.
I want a house.
So at first,
So I see a bigger house.
I see a bigger house, right? You know what I'm saying? Believe larger, right?
Yeah.
So, I was okay being, second tier leadership
Right.
on my job. I go ahead and go to that next tier,
Yeah.
right? So it's like you're believing larger in context.
Right.
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 In context of
Yeah.
what makes sense to you.
Right.
In context of what you've already rationally said
Yeah.
works,
Yeah.
in context of your degrees,
Yep.
in context of your experience.
Yeah.
It's like I'm believing larger, but there's like these strings that are tied to
Yeah.
what you already trust.
Yeah.
And through reading this poem, you learn that no, believe larger, and the journey of going through and allowing God to have you believe larger starts to cut off all them little
All
strings.
of them.
And then what you realize though,
Mm.
and I tell people all the time, right? It's one of those things that you don't realize till you're like detached,
Yeah.
is actually that's where freedom was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can either get this freedom. I love what you just said. You wrote in there. You either can get this freedom because you got fired and you had to be like, all right, let me go ahead and cut that string. The Bible told me to cut that string.
But nah, it was kind of cut.
It was kind of cut for me, right? So
Yeah.
you can either cut it or
or
it can be cut.
Either way.
Either way,
Yeah.
God wants to work you to a place of freedom.
Yeah.
God wants to get you to a place of freedom.
Yeah.
And I believe that when we say the word creative,
Mhm.
which may be intimidating to some,
Mhm.
I believe it's just a badge, a title of freedom.
Yeah, to freely express Him.
And say, you know what? And I'm gonna pull this up, right? When you write to me, you said, let's see where this ride with Christ takes us.
Yeah.
Now that was a note you wrote to me.
Mhm.
And I know it was my moment, but I want to bring my moment to this moment. Because when you talk about believing larger, when you talk about cutting those strings, when you talk about, whether it's through experience or assignment that the strings get cut, you talk about a blend of both, right?
Mhm.
In this book, you talk about how an assignment helped you to believe larger and cut some strings, how, life experiences had you cut some strings. Either way, I believe what God is trying to get us to is to live out what it means to take a ride through life with Christ.
Yeah.
And I tell you all the time, this is like that hot air balloon ride,
Mhm.
right? There's a hot air balloon ride at Disney,
Mhm.
but there's strings that keep the balloon attached to the ground.
Uh-huh.
And so it's like,
You up there, but
you up there, but you ain't really
yeah,
up there. But when you talk about living a life for Christ, right? Believe it or not, it's like a hot air balloon ride.
Yeah.
But you don't have like this time limit on the amount of gas that can keep you in the sky.
Yeah.
Right?
And you don't know which way that thing is gonna
The
go.
wind blowing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you could spend that whole ride thinking about I could fall, or you can look up and see how beautiful the view is.
Mhm.
And I think about the scripture. The Bible tells us, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I should fear no evil.
Yeah.
Because you are with me.
Yeah.
Your rod and staff, they comfort me.
Yeah.
Right? And that lets me know that, there is this comfort that comes from me in The mountaintops are in the valleys, right?
Mhm.
But the comfort is knowing that in every season, what God is speaking for me to do,
Yeah.
I embrace it.
Yeah.
I allow it to cut strings.
Yeah.
I allow it to take me places that are uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And honestly, it's freeing.
It's freeing, and when you realize how how prepared you've been, like when you relax into it, and you just begin to trust the process,
Yeah.
you know, and move through it. One of the things you always say, is um, pre- it don't take prepared people a long time to do nothing,
Yeah.
you know, and part of that preparation is just trusting the process.
Yeah.
Just trusting the process, because the thing that I found too is that when so like even with mannequins, I wrote that many years before I ever actually ministered
Mm.
it on platform, many years before.
Yeah.
But when it came up as something that was looked for or necessary for something that we were doing here, it was already there,
Yeah.
right? And how much more will that happen when we just trust the process and
Mm.
lean into it, allow God to do whatever he
Yeah.
wants and to take us wherever he wants, whenever he wants. And then that's when there's nothing missing, nothing lacking, nothing broken. That's when everything for the house is in the house begins to come alive and come to fruition. It's because you haven't stifled any of your creative gifts. You haven't stifled anything that God wanted
Yeah.
to do with you. Anything that he wanted to say, you said it, you wrote it. Anything that he wanted you to draw, you drew it. Anything he wanted you to send out, you sent it. Anything that was, because then when it's called upon or when
Yeah.
it's necessary, and you never know when that's going to be. It could be
Yeah.
today, it could be 3 years from now, but it was always there because you did it in the time that he gave it to you to do it.
Yeah.
You were willing to take that balloon ride.
Yeah.
You were willing to go with him and to float with him wherever it was that he was going to take you. And then how important it is for the people that you surround yourself with, the people who are in closest proximity to you, to understand that we all on this ride.
Yeah. Your circle matters,
Your
right?
circle matters.
And I believe so much that man, when we allow God to just use us,
Yeah.
we see how critical our circle is.
Yeah.
And we also see the beauty of the different textures,
Mhm.
of our circle.
Yeah.
I tell people, your circle should have a personality,
Yeah.
right? There should be different personality types. Not everybody should can necessarily be cheering at the same time,
Yeah.
right? But you just know this is my circle.
Yeah, you're gonna
You
have some
know,
cheers, some gonna be pow powing, some gonna be, you're gonna get all of that all mixed in there.
yes, man. And
Yeah.
so I've had such an awesome time.
Yay. I did
Uh,
good. I didn't cry.
you didn't cry. I want to encourage everybody who's listening, like, get this. You might say, why should I get this? Perfectly, you understood through this interview why you should get this. But you should get this because not only is it an example of Mrs. Randy's, Norman's journey, but it's also, man, one of the most tangible ways I've experienced and read about how to live a life of faith and how to walk out on the courage that God gave you, the confidence God gave you, and embrace your uncharted,
Yeah.
and just enjoy it with a smile on your face. And one thing I can say that, there's been plenty of different emotions, right? We cry sometimes
Mhm.
we just laugh,
Yeah.
sometimes we a little confused, but in all of that, God keeps us going forward.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited, so thankful that I got a chance to talk about
Yeah.
this moment of forward with you.
Yeah.
And like you say, tell everybody where they can get the book from and how they can get the book. And yeah.
So you can go to my website, which is randyjnorman.com, to get the book. It's $35. And then all the books I usually autograph and write a little something in it for you. And so, yeah, that's where you go to get it.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. Thank y'all for
Yay.
your time. And till we meet again.
Yay.
It's a good day to have a good day, ladies
Always.
and gentlemen.
Wow, I hope that you were blessed. And be sure to check out all the wonderful things that Miss Randy Norman is doing. All of her information here is on the screen. Be sure to get her book if you don't already have it, but also check out the EP that she has released, which is available on all streaming platforms. Also, follow her on all of her social so you know exactly what she has going on in her life and what's coming up next for her in her creative journey. Now, for those that's wanting to get involved and like, hey, JT, I want my gift to be released as well, sign up for the Creative Collective. That's exactly what we're here for. So be sure to text the number right on the screen. That way we can get your information and we can also be able to help you release your gift. Guys, that's it. That's a wrap for another segment of Releasing the Gifts. I hope that you were blessed. Be sure to stay creative, stay focused, stay blessed.